So the vortex is finally creating a low pressure area. The low pressure is sucking on our wingtip, is breaking our wingtip, which is lowering the performance. We always try to limit, to minimize this effect by having more.
Hi everyone, this is a bit of a different one. I've had the chance to record a talk by Hannes Papesh at our local club here in the UK about wing design. If you haven't heard of Hannes, you probably have heard of his work because he's been flying, designing and building paragliders since the beginning of paragliding really. He's been working at Nova for many years and was the main person responsible for the Mentor series, which you've probably seen some Nova Mentors around anywhere you fly. And recently he's also started his own company, Phi Paragliders. So some really interesting design concepts, an interesting design process, and talks about paraglider design, and especially in-depth paraglider design, and very far and few between. So I hope you enjoyed it if you're a design geek like me. And because it's such a long video, I want to thank these people up front for supporting the video and the channel. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. And I'll leave you with Hannes.
So your genes are carrying inside a successful survival strategy, and when you mix it up, you recombine it with another individuum, then it could lead to something even better. How does it match to paragliding design? Yeah, because I asked the marketing guys, how could I have more attention, and those told me sex sells, it still sells. So this was the... You wouldn't have come if you wouldn't know that we're talking about sex today. So the same in paragliding design, you quite often have a proto which is nice in lots of matters, but in one behavior it's bad, so it's just 90% of perfection. And in that special matter, another wing is better. It has disadvantages in all the other points, but in this special matter that is here having the lag from 90 to 100%. In this matter, this one is better. And then I have the challenge to just combine the good point from this one with all the good points from that one to reach one glider which is good in all the matters, which is reaching 100% and which is ready to be certified and to be sold in serial. So these are real prototypes we had in the development of the Symphonia, our high-level A-class wing. And how do we do that? Do you know that game? Yeah, I was presenting this Rubik cube to our dealers meeting in the early days just to demonstrate the difficulties we have in paraglider design. Sometimes you're just finishing the red part and the green part is getting puzzled. So the important thing is just to finish all the aspects of a wing, which is very, very tricky. Do you know this game? Yeah, it was quite in a trend in the 80s. When you're the one on this side of the table, you have to estimate the color code, and that one is just giving the color code and is giving the answers. If that one reaches, if it has the colors in the right position or the right colors in a different position. And if you really acting systematically, you will always get the right code in this, among these possibilities, among these tries. You will never fail. You just have to keep on acting on the base of a very clear strategy. So the strategy is the very, very important point in development. Sometimes, especially the last steps are the most difficult ones. Who's been running a marathon? No, you're not having sex. You're not running marathons. Come on. Huh? You're just paragliding. Who never drank beer? You're just on. Okay, you don't answer. Of course, when you run marathons, you have no brain anyway. After 42 kilometers, your body is running by itself through the finish line. But I had the experience with my junior designers, like Alex, who is designing for Skywalk now, or the advanced guys, or Philip designing for Nova, that they have some problems doing the last step for the final changes for the certification and to the final steps that are necessary to have the glider perfect and to have it finished and certified. Some of those had the tendency to jump over the fence and run an extra round. It's a matter of of mental strength to be able to finish something. Remember tennis, like Roger Federer, he's used to win. He won more than 100 big tournaments already, and you see now he's still winning, even if his competitors are much younger, maybe playing much more physical tennis and have some more abilities, but they don't have this mental strength. So it's also a matter of experience and strength to do the right last steps. I was also comparing the unorganized strategy, like shooting in the dark with the bump gun. You can shoot a while, and after a lot of the attempts you may hit something and it will fall down, but you don't learn anything. So it needs strategy and very clear changes to really understand which change is affecting which behavior. Compared to biology, our development system is a parametric CAD system, computer-aided design system. That means every single entity of the glider is coded, defined by parameters. You don't do anything with the mouse, like on glider plan. Today I remember glider plan. I always forget the name of this Australian standard software. With glider plan you can do everything, but you have to do everything with the mouse, and when you do something with the mouse you do it every time different. When you have it coded in parameters, it's fixed and cleared, so nothing with the mouse but some dry code, just parameters. Every single curve, shape, whatever is defined by a parameter, compared to our biological relation where everything is coded by the DNA and by reproduction of the single cell. The DNA, which is a long molecule, normally is folded together, is bundled together to chromosomes, and similar to that, we can bundle some technical features to just a group of parameters. Like this may be the code defining the new type of diagonals. You know, these fingers I was designing for the excerpts, Omega excerpts in 2015 the first time. So they're shaped like that, like trumpets. And we just had a prototype, some development to optimize these parameters, to form these fingers. And then it shaped maybe a chromosome, and we can take this chromosome and apply it to the other prototype, and it will work among very few tries, maybe one or two prototype generations. So we are just recombining successful strategies. It's like a brick game. That was the base of our effective work. So we could certify 31 gliders in 1 year and 6 months, only because of this possibility to have these bricks recombined. Here we have a short overview of the single window, of the single screens of the software development system. We have of the Paraglider development system. We have here the ground shape, we have the views, we have the log file, the patterns, the ballooning transitions. We have a very simple performance prediction, just a simple one. We're getting more into the detail. These are just the sail cuts describing the design and having the inside mini ribs on the trailing edge with all the technical data. Here's some more details of the sail cuts. I was myself developing this software since 1988. So the first was just a sail cut calculation, but now it's a very complex workflow. These are the straps, for instance. You see the intake and the straps. Here you're playing around with different suspension positions, and you need the straps to keep the areas between the suspension positions stable until a certain amount, but then it should be a weak point. Here you have, you see the ballooning of the single cells, you see the diagonals, the angles of the lines, and at this stage there is also a simple analysis implemented, which is calculating the forces and which is getting you some infos about the line lengths and the diagonal angles. But the much more complex analysis will follow later. Most of the time you have a reference wing, here the green one. You can compare every single entity between the new draft and the older reference. And of course you get the nice 3D renderings in different types. Now we come more to the point of analysis. I was internally deciding to split one paraglider cell into 16 single segments, and I have 120, 150 coordinates in profile length, which is in combination creating a very dense surface mesh. And this surface mesh is the base of a simulation mesh. So all these single mesh elements are extruded towards the space around the wing. That means all the space around the wing is defined by single volume elements, like similar to cubes. And the computer can calculate the airstream around the paraglider shape. Here, visualization of turbulence and effort and speed. Here another picture of the simulation room. So the whole room around the wing is filled with elements. It's called finite volume method. And you can do some nice visualizations. Like here you have the intake. We are simulating inside and outside the wing. That means we can get exact results regarding the pressure inside the wing. Here you see, for instance, the stagnation point. It's still before the intake. It's depending on the angle of attack on the more lower side, but still very close to the leading edge. The color is describing the speed. You see here in the area of the stagnation point, the speed is very low, and above the wing the speed is increasing a lot, about 50%, so over 150%, and the higher speed is offering or is creating a lower pressure, which is letting us fly. Here you have the visualization of the vortex on the wingtips. You know, you have experienced those when you ever crossed the flying path of a B-place glider, for instance. You feel the energy. The air is just there, rotated. Yeah. The under pressure area, so lower pressure area, so the higher speed is creating lower pressure. And this lower pressure, we can visualize it like a bubble. So the lower pressure is a bubble on top, sitting on top of our wing, and it's just it's producing the force which is lifting us, or which is keeping us in the air. I'm sorry?
It's a fly bubble.
Yeah, it's a fly bubble, yeah. And now we have the I think we have the talk number 7, and now you just had this idea, so it lasted a while. Okay, here we have the fly bubble, and here we have the brake bubble. This is the lower pressure created by the vortex in the wingtips. So the vortex is finally creating a low pressure area. The low pressure is sucking on our wingtip, is breaking our wingtip, which is lowering the performance. We always try to minimize this effect by having more aspect ratios, or a clean shape and the right lift distribution. But I think it's a nice visualization, not only the vortex you see, but also the effect it finally has. Yeah, then here interesting, we could also we could have a look on the tracks the single air elements taking. So here you see still the vortexes and some turbulences from the topsail, but you also see inside the wing how the air is flowing. It's flowing with a very low speed, which is good. You want to avoid having air getting into the wing in the center of the wing and outside and streaming out the wing in the wingtips, which may happen when the intake is not properly designed. So the shaping of the intake was always an issue. We do this since 2001. So shapes AS cubes, like the shark nose marketing thing, they were already known to us, of course, and we were playing around a lot with this pressure behavior. If the pressure is not right distributed between center and wingtips, you may have this inside stream floating to the outside. But here we see the speed of the air particles is very low, and there is no clear outstream. It's good. Next big step. It was almost 10 years ago, as we managed to do the following. Here you see quite used paraglider visualization. It looks too clean to be true. You see the ballooning, you see the clean shape. It looks like an object of aluminium, but we managed to have the computer simulating the deforming. That looks much more real. So we see the wrinkle on the line here on the stabilo. It looks like real. You see the deformed leading edge. You see just this construction of the diagonals. Remember, it's the classical one is not working. It's losing the wingspan. The line fork is too short. So the whole thing is showing a massive deformation. Computer calculated 2010. The technique is called FSI, Fluid Structure Interaction. So that means we have the forces from the airstream calculation. We put those forces on a static model which is simulating cloth behavior, and after hours of calculation, of course not on this very simple sample, this is a very reduced and simple sample wing I used for the very first tryouts. After hours of calculation, it's showing you this deformation. Of course, this is massive. In the final workflow, normally it looks like that. The color is coding the wingspan loss. So this means 1 centimeter, 2, 3 centimeters. As more color, as more deformation. Here you see you have some problems in the stabilo. Most of the gliders have problems in the wingtips because normally, or some designers have less cells in the wingtip, so they keep the cell width almost the same while the chord length is shrinking massively. That means the relationship between cell width and chord length is getting not as good as it should, so you have some massive deformations in the wingtips. In real flight you may recognize less performance and worse handling, but we can exclude it in the draft already, in the computer analyzed draft. So if the computer is telling us that it's deforming, we don't build the prototype. So we spend more time in computer analysis, in trying drafts to lots of different tries to have finally the computer telling us that it's a reasonable good version, and then we realize it. So after when the computer is telling you that it will not work, that it shows too much deformation, it's senseless to build a prototype. So the computer model, the computer prediction is already as good that when the computer predicts a problem, there is a problem. And when the computer gives the go, then we are building the prototype. The first pictures you get from the proto is that one. The factory is checking the sewing, so they are mounting the glider upside down and having some ventilators inflating the wing to check the sewing of the internals. So this is the first glimpse you get of the blown up proto, but without having the real loads on it. But quite soon you have the first flights. So this is normally my job, to shoot these air-to-air pictures, where we can evaluate the clean, so how the 3D shaping is working, if it has the right dimensions. It doesn't have to have curves here, or what's the name of scratches? Yeah, or it's like this. If it could be bad if it looks like that, you know, all over the wingspan. So this kind, which is quite often seen on this on the 3D shaping, because of the shrinking of the sewing, you have a deformation here. That was the reason why I put the 3D shaping in diagonal shape, because there is more force in this direction, which is stretching finally the sewing, and it has to be properly designed in the matter of having some rest tension to tension the cloth. We have finally the same problem as the cartographs, which we have a round earth, and they have to map the round earth to a flat piece of card, of plan, like that one, and we have a flat piece of cloth and have to form a round shape of wing from it. But we have the advantage that the cloth is more stretchable as paper. We use the same techniques as the shoemakers. We can bend the material over the round shape to a special degree, not too much. And so we need some forces to bend the material. So it's also a parameter is describing how much cloth is added inside this 3D shaping sewing. And it has been shown, we have the experience that these optimized parameters can be applied to nearly all models. So we just had to optimize it once, and then we took this chromosome, this parameter, and applied it to many others, and it was working from the beginning. So it's just like a brick game. That's the reason for one of the reasons for our effective working and our fast results. And here you see how the leading edge really should look like. This was the Symphonia proto at that time. And another important step is the GoPro camera recording. I showed you the GoPro recording of the single skin. Normally the inside recording looks like that. It's inside, so bottom sail, no landscape. And an important point to look at is if the straps are really stretched. If we have dimensioned too small values for the bottom, for the ballooning, we will lose wingspan. We've seen the graphics before, and when we are losing the wingspan, then the straps will be loose. When the straps are stretched, when they are under tension, then the glider has the wingspan it should have. In the case it doesn't have the wingspan it should have, then everything changes. Then the lines are wrong, the angles of attack are wrong, whatever, everything is wrong. And you sometimes see some protos, not of ours, where they just where they did some sewings on the leading or the trailing edge to get it under tension, but then all the rest is crap. So it has to be designed properly, and you have to reach a model which doesn't show deformation. If there's deformation, all the rest of calculations are useless. Here you also see the diagonal ribs, these single fingers I was pointing here. And they are not only pointing to the next airfoil, they can even point to the second airfoil leading through the holes. So Nova was calling it needle eye ribs. It was a feature of my software as long as they were allowed to use it. So it is just this technique. And this, you see, it's a lot reduction inside, big holes, very thin straps. The basic idea is of this construction that the classical diagonal rib is a trapeze. So and here you have this. Here the load is diagonal to the weaving, to the angle of the cloth, to the weaving of the cloth, and so this is leading to a big amount of deformation. Or it means the whole load has to be carried by the coating, but as soon as the coating is overstretched once, it's gone. It will never recover. And here the load is in the direction of the weaving because it is cut. It is cut directly in the weaving direction and then mounted that way. So the deformation is not as big and it's like a spring, so it can recover. So it's a big advantage, and you can have smaller straps here, and you have less material and a better durability. I built the prototype and tested. So this is Mike Küng in action. It's shot also air to air to estimate the angles that are happening in this dynamic collapse maneuver. The norm is asking for 45 degrees, and with the GoPro mounted on the pilot, it's difficult to estimate. There are not really good instruments to measure it, so we try to do some air-to-air photos to get an idea. Yeah, this is also a photo which is useful for the evaluation of the collapse, because then here you see the GoPro, the marks of the norm, they are on the bottom sail, but they are overlapped by the wing later. And when you shoot the photo from the top, you can better estimate the size of the collapse. So this is our lake, just beside our head office. 1 kilometer away we have the lake, which is very known to be one of the best test areas in the world. And yeah, this is Mike Küng in action. This was one of the first protos for the Symphonia, and at that stage we found that it is capable of getting an A-wing, and then we tried hard and finally succeeded. And yeah, of course, you need the performance comparisons. This is the mountain just beside our head office, which is there. This is the mountain I was describing you before with the steep rock faces, and these are the Alps in our area, Zillertal, and there we do our comparison flights to check out if all the calculations were true, and we really got a step forward. These are already the final versions of the wing we were designing, and yeah, now you know why we do sex. It's all about strategy and discipline and yeah, evolution of human beings, of animals, of paragliders. Finally, also, after this is all marketing. Forget whatever I tell you. Don't trust the manufacturer. Pay attention. Don't trust any manufacturer. As louder the marketing is promising anything, don't trust it. Try it yourself. You are the parameter. Yeah. Some say that the dinosaurs got extincted. They didn't. They developed the birds, and they still rule the world. So, good night.